When you think about falling off, what do you think about? Do you think about the movie star whose last few films got a lower rating than they usually receive? Or maybe the singer whose last couple albums didn't hit the same way? Or maybe it's the athlete who isn't as dominant as they were 4 or 5 years ago? Or maybe it's someone you work with who used to be a killer salesman and has seemed to slow down as time has went on. This past weekend, I watched the J. Cole announcement for his upcoming album, The Fall Off, and it has stayed with me. The one where he's washing his car, not because it was loud, not because it was dramatic, but because it was calm. There's a voice in the background talking about how things naturally come and go and how nothing stays forever, how cycles are just a part of life. And instead of resisting that idea, the whole moment accepts it. It seems like that's what the album's going to be about. I'm really excited. But I did realize that this is something that we struggle with as a culture, as a society. We treat falling off like failure, like weakness, like something to avoid at all costs. But that's not reality. Reality moves in seasons. Things rise, things peak, and then things fall. And then something else begins. It's kind of like it's creating room for new, it's evolution. Now, the problem isn't the fall. The problem is how afraid we are of it, how we frame it. And I don't even like the term falling off. To me, it's just change, but we'll go with the terminology because it's what used. Why do we fear the fall? I think people misunderstand what falling off actually means. They hear it and they think decline, irrelevance, losing. They think potentially being exposed. But most of the time, it's none of that. Most of the time, it's just change. That's it. In my own personal life, I've held on too long in relationships, past versions of myself, identities that had already served their purpose. Holding on, the cost wasn't pain, it was stagnation. I couldn't grow until I let it go. I couldn't access the next level of life while gripping on to the last one. And I think that's what people are actually afraid of. It's not falling off, it's letting go of who they have been, because once you do that, there's no guarantee about who you become next. Uncertainty scares us. Uncertainty scares everyone more than decline, change. Sometimes holding on can cause damage. And you see this in real time. You see this in real life. People that stay in relationships long after they've already lost themselves. And they don't stay because the relationship is good. They stay because it's familiar. You see it with former athletes, guys who were like the man in high school or college, and they never let go of that identity. They never change. They don't soften. They don't listen. They don't grow, because letting go of being the man, being that guy, feels like disappearing or becoming irrelevant. So they hold on. And holding on too long doesn't preserve identity. It distorts it. It's weird. This is the part that we don't talk about, though. How staying too long can do more damage than leaving early sometimes. Because the version of you that worked in one season can block you from becoming the one that you need to become in the next. So you get to write your own story. You get to choose your own ending. And going back to the J. Cole thing. So when the Kendrick situation happened, the culture wanted blood. They wanted J. Cole to go back in the booth and diss Kendrick again. They wanted him to knuckle up, to go at Kendrick, to prove something. I wanted him to. That's the script that the culture wanted. But J. Cole chose something different. He decided that that was not the story that he wanted to write. And the backlash was immediate. The culture didn't like it. People said he quit. People said he folded. People said he was scared. People said you can't talk about being the best and then step away when it gets real. But that assumes that the only honorable ending is the one that the crowd demands, the one that the culture demands. So Cole said he didn't want blood on his hands. And then he went quiet. He didn't defend. He didn't argue. He didn't explain. To me, that silence is important because it shows something we don't respect anymore, which is that choosing your own ending is power. Not every story needs a battle. Not every story needs escalation. Not every season needs to be dragged past its expiration date. Happens all the time, though. You see it a lot in sports with athletes and legacies. Brett Favre stayed longer than some people thought he should. And depending on who you ask, it either damaged his legacy, or on the other side, it was his right to choose. And honestly, I think it can be both. I think that both can be true. Because here's the real point. We don't actually know how someone feels looking back whenever they look back on it. For Brett Favre, if he looks back and he feels fulfilled, then that was right for him. And that's what matters. Knowing when to stop is not a weakness. It's actually control. It's power. It's acceptance. It's peace. The problem is most people never get to make that decision consciously. They just drift. They don't choose when something ends. They let it decay. But what do most people want? I think that most people don't actually want purpose. I think that they want to be noticed at all costs because being noticed feels like proof you still matter. It's a disguise for purpose. And the fear behind holding on is simple. The fear is the fear of losing identity, the fear of starting over, the fear of becoming ordinary, or the fear of fading into the background, especially in a world that worships relevance currently. But here's the truth. Life doesn't punish change. It punishes resistance. Every meaningful life involves ego death, reinvention. Every meaningful life involves humility. It involves a known. And that's not failure. It's very important. It's not failure. That is evolution. We evolve as we grow, if we allow the evolution to come. So to me, the message behind the fall off isn't decline, it's acceptance. It's understanding that life ebbs and flows for leaders. It ebbs and flows for famous people. It even for the best people in the world. And then especially for everyday people. You're allowed to change. This isn't the ending. It's a transition. You don't lose value because something ends. You lose value when you refuse to grow past it. And the most mature thing a person can say isn't, I'm still on top. It's, I understand the season I'm in. Lying to yourself doesn't help. Because everything rises and everything falls. And that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is pretending that the tragedy is pretending that it shouldn't.